oral interpreters. For today's video, we're going to be breaking down one of the most essential roles in oral interpretation, the coach. Plenty of people fall into the role of coach, whether they are already a teacher or an outside member of the community that has been hired specifically for the position. Coaching might be overwhelming for somebody new at first. So today we're going to be breaking down the essentials of the position and what your main responsibilities are. First things first, get familiar with the handbook for your state. This handy-dandy guide will provide registration deadlines, specific rules for different categories, category descriptions, judging criteria, and so much more. In the video description below, I've included links to the speech/oral interp websites of several states in the Midwest, where you can find your state's handbook and competition dates. I've also included a link to the National Speech and Debate Association website, along with a link to an article by Keith Bistodeau, an experienced coach from North Dakota. In his article, Bistodeau outlines several checklists that can help as a guide for starting up a team, budgeting, and recruiting. Next, we're going to talk about competition structures. As I've stated before, my experience is specific to South Dakota, so make sure you understand the specific structures to your state. For in-state competitions, schools participate according to their school classification. This is based off of their student enrollment. In South Dakota, the classifications from smallest to largest are B, A, and AA. Students will only compete against other students in their same school classification level. This means, at the state level, there are 3 competition sessions for each category. I'll go over what these categories are in a later video. Because the number of smaller schools outnumber the more populated schools, B schools must first have a district and region competition before advancing to state. A schools must first have a region competition, and AA schools can proceed directly to the state level. However, this doesn't mean that AA students have less opportunities to participate. There are multiple tournaments hosted by various schools during a typical oral interp season. Teams from schools of all sizes can participate in these tournaments, and school classification does not play a role in determining who competes in each round. At inter-school tournaments, teams can send an unlimited number of pieces for each category. However, for district, region, and state competitions, each school is only allowed to send 1 piece per category. This applies to schools at all classification levels. Thus, students usually are given the opportunity to perform at an in-school showcase, in which their coach and several other judges will determine which students will get to represent their school in each category. At district and region competitions, usually only about half of the pieces are permitted to proceed to the next level. This means that not every B and A school is represented in every category at the state competition. While your state's handbook is a fantastic resource to get started, an even better resource to learn more about being a new coach is getting connected. Connect with coaches from neighboring schools and connect with your chairperson for your state. That being said, I conducted interviews with 3 coaches of oral interp in South Dakota, so we could gain perspectives from the 3 different levels of school classification.
My name's Teresa Fester, and I coach at O'Gorman High School for the past 23 years. I just kind of fell into it. I had been teaching college and they needed help at O'Gorman, and one of my friends reached out, and here I am.
My name is Alicia Juelfs. I studied communication studies and theater in college. I got my master's in theater performance and started teaching at Sioux Falls Christian. I'm the head coach, and I started that in 2020.
My name is Michelle Fink. I am in my 5th year coaching oral interpretation. I have a lot of background in theater, having a master's degree in music education and teaching endorsements in English. Freeman Academy asked if I would be their coach 5 years ago, so here I am.
What would you say are your biggest responsibilities as a coach?
The biggest responsibility is to find literature that matches the student. If you just give them a piece and they have no connection to it, they're going to do it for you, but they're not going to enjoy it. But if you take the time, get to know the student, and search a lot of literature, you find that connection.
The 2 biggest things that I can think of is preparation and preparation. A lot of my time is spent in rehearsal with students, going over the pieces that they've chosen, trying to get the students to the level that they want to be at for competition. Once you go to meets, it's out of your control. On the day of, it's up to the students to do the thing. So I really spend a lot of time prepping on the front end of the paperwork and the logistics and everything, and then prepping the students for the meet, so that when we go to the meet, we just do the thing.
I thought that the coach comes up with all of the drills that you're supposed to do and comes up with the plays, then decides who's going to play what position. So I kind of took it that it was my job to help find pieces that fit the kids and then help them develop skills they needed. And most of that is right. I think where I'm making the transition now is I always have some good ideas, but I'm learning I cannot be responsible for every kid finding their perfect piece every year. So I'm in this transition where I'm trying to help the students find their own pieces.
What does a typical season of Oral Interp look like for you?
We start mid-October and we end the very end of February. I like to take my students and compete out of state as well. They're going to see the best, and then they're also going to get really good critiques and just kind of know where they stand. Last year we did online, but live we go to Marshall, Minnesota, Des Moines, Iowa, and Omaha, Nebraska, just to have different competition and hit some other really big schools.
I always send out an intent form to my students, and then they come and they meet me and I tell them, here's what Oral Interp is. By that time, I have the season schedule planned out. I choose which meets our school goes to. I say, here's what's going to happen. Here's my availability for rehearsals. And I start having students sign up for rehearsal times and they start picking their pieces. Our first meet is usually about the second or third week in October. Then we go to competitions just about once a week. Our region competition, that's usually like the second week of November. And then if they make it on a state from there, that's the first week in December. We participate at Sioux Falls Christian in second season. My size will cut down about half. So the season technically is done first week in December, but if you do second season, then you go through February or March.
I meet somewhere mid-September with the student body. I give them a handout of basic schedule, attire, categories, how to find a piece. And then I say, go for it. My goal is to meet with each student 4 times before districts. The preference is to meet with them at least 2 or 3 times before that first competition. I create a group on band where I can send out announcements to all of the kids.
What is your typical budget for oral interpretation?
Like most schools, we have our travel budget. You know, you have different accounts, and so you kind of roll over where needed. It does allow me to buy enough material. I have a script library in that door behind me that I've been building up ever since I came here. I do spend my own money. You know, you see something and you buy it on Amazon. It's all an investment.
I feel like my budget for Oral Interp is definitely enough, which I know a lot of schools are struggling with, but I come from a background, I'm very frugal. So my first year, I had the money to spend and I spent almost no money. Ours at our school is divided into categories. I know my specific amount for materials. I have a specific amount for travel. So budgeting in and padding that makes it much less stressful. So I guess my advice, try to be creative on the realm of materials and scripts.
Like I said, I get paid, but when I went to them and said, you know, I think it's really important for these kids to have time to live with the piece, practice it and develop it. I said, can I have a budget to take kids to tournaments? And they said, you don't have a budget. Let us know how much it's going to cost and we'll see. I got approved for 3 tournaments this year, not including districts, region, and state. They're just absorbing the transportation costs and the registration fees because I don't have a budget.
If you could give a piece of advice to a brand new coach, what would it be?
Read. Talk to the kid. You know, I always ask them, what are your favorite shows, favorite movies? If you could give money to a charity, like what kind of charity? Because then you find out what social causes they're interested in. And then you can go from there. Try to find out about your student before you give them a piece.
My advice is to ask questions. I felt going into it like, okay, this is literally my field. I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. I should know what's going on. But Oral Interp, it has such specifics and it's its own machine. I'm really fortunate the person who had the job before me is still at our school and she was very gracious in helping me, but I asked questions. If anyone offers to answer questions, take them up on it. Ask the question, talk to the folks because it's so much easier if you just are in the loop. But I will say you have to ask for a seat at the table sometimes. And that was something that took me a while to grasp, but I wish I would have just started sooner. Every question I had, somebody answered. Email me. I can maybe answer your questions or get you in touch with someone who can. That's my advice.
Clarify what you want your program to look like because it is really easy to burn out. I just have had this mindset that I am this coach of this really dinky B school and the A schools have classes. That was another struggle too, because I was trying to compare. That's my current turning point, is I didn't have a clear vision. I need to give my all to the students. And so I was helping them find pieces and I was cutting pieces for them and I was spending hours and hours and hours typing things up for them. And then I realized I wasn't doing them any favors. Like I said, I'm in that transition of, I realize I'm not maybe being the best coach by doing everything for them. I guess that's 2 pieces of advice. 1, decide what your program wants to look like. And then 2, set it up in such a way that you are actually teaching the kids specific skills, not just handing them a free piece to read that they are not invested in.
Last but not least, why do you do this job and what is your favorite thing about it?
Obviously, after 23 years, I do love it. I love the connections that you have. When you're traveling with students and family, you just really get to know them, and same with the coaches. And so it's actually fun to go to tournaments because you enjoy being with the people. It's just a great community, and I think that's why I stay.
Why do I do this job? So I played sports, got injured, had back surgery when I was 12. So I started doing fine art stuff because I couldn't do sports anymore. And I was getting the same enjoyment out of participating in the arts that I was from sports. When they announced my piece, I was like, I could do something with this. And it was more than that. It was like, I feel like I'm supposed to do something with this. I was like, okay, God. And that's when I started shifting and I started doing the arts more than sports, and sports faded out. And I started thinking about pursuing that as a career. Maybe God created you for this reason. Maybe God wants to use you to glorify Him by showing people your gifts. My favorite part of it is building strong communicators. And I'm so passionate about young people knowing how to communicate. And that's my favorite part of it, is like when other teachers or parents or people are like, oh yeah, they do oral interp, you can tell. And I was like, yeah, you can tell. They're better communicators because of it.
I do it because I love it. I didn't even know what it was until my oldest, you, was in 7th grade. And you came to me and said, hey, there's this thing called oral interp. And that just led us into me helping you and us learning and what it was together. And I just went, wow, this is actually approachable, doable theater. You can work on your presentation skills and your acting skills, and watching a kid transform a piece from words on a paper into something that they have absorbed and they get into the meaning of it. They see their peers going, wow, that touched me enough to do more about it. And so I think that's what excites me about it, that with all its limitations, oral interp teaches kids to find their voice.
Thank you so much to Teresa Fester, Alicia Juelfs, and Michelle Fink for contributing their knowledge and experiences to this series. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so you know when the next video in this series is released. Salutations, and happy oral interping!